Have you ever stopped to wonder why the singers and actors we see on screen look so flawless, so impossibly glamorous, capable of mesmerizing millions? Is that beauty truly a blessing from nature? Or is it the result of painful, extreme transformations hidden behind the spotlight? In Hollywood, the glittering capital of fame, talent alone has never been enough. Beauty became a currency of power, a ruthless standard that determined who would rise and who would be erased. For women of color, recognition often came at a devastating cost. Many were pushed into drastic surgeries and brutal physical alterations, changes so severe they border on the unthinkable. Today, we uncover the most chilling transformations in entertainment history, revealing 11 legendary singers and actresses, icons of Black beauty whose natural looks were once deemed unacceptable by Hollywood's cruel gaze. Brenda Sykes. Brenda Sykes, the brutal cost of rebirth and the disappearance of Hollywood's so-called ugly duckling. In the glittering, unforgiving Hollywood of the late 1960s, Brenda Sykes stood alone, a quiet outlier whose beauty was buried beneath the shadows of towering icons. When she first set foot in the cinematic capital, she carried the fragile insecurity of a wildflower growing where no one thought it belonged. The industry was ruthless. It branded her the ugly duckling, dismissing her raw, unpolished features as a flaw rather than a truth. Her face, unfiltered, unmistakably rooted in her Black heritage, was judged against narrow European ideals of beauty and deemed out of tune with the times. That judgment wrapped around her like a crown of thorns. Brenda felt unfinished, unseen, longing to be embraced yet rejected for the very face she was born with. But beneath her quiet resignation lived a dangerous resolve. If Hollywood demanded transformation, she would give it one, no matter the cost. In silence, Sykes began a perilous journey under the surgeon's knife, during an era when perfection was pursued at devastating risk. Inside sterile Los Angeles clinics heavy with the scent of disinfectant, she surrendered to cold steel. Her jaw was shaved, her nose refined, each incision an attempt to erase what the world cruelly called coarse. Years later, Brenda recalled those days with a tremor in her voice. Every time I looked in the mirror at my swollen face and stitched skin, it felt like I was killing the girl I used to be just to give life to a stranger. The physical pain was unbearable, but the deeper terror was knowing she might be destroying her true self forever. Then came 1970, the liberation of L.B. Jones. When Brenda re-emerged on screen, Hollywood gasped. No one recognized the woman they once ignored. Before them stood a breathtaking beauty, luminous, refined, magnetic, her presence regal, her gaze unforgettable. She was hailed as a Black cinema queen, her transformation so complete it silenced prejudice and forced an industry to bow. Brenda Sykes had won Hollywood's beauty race. But behind the face adored by thousands lived a secret carved in flesh and memory. As she later confessed with aching honesty, "People celebrate my beauty, but they don't know what it cost me, my past, my pain, and surgeries so brutal they cut through both my skin and my soul. Those are wounds no makeup can ever hide." Step away from the glitter of 1970s Hollywood, and the story drags us back into the merciless backstreets of Brooklyn, where fate nearly crushed a rare gem before it could shine. Long before the world crowned her a beauty icon, Bernadette was just a fragile Black girl shrinking beneath the weight of her own reflection, drowning in insecurity. Her fear of being seen ran so deep that whenever she was pushed into the ruthless battlefield of beauty pageants, where young girls were stripped bare and measured for every flaw, she would fake violent asthma attacks. It was an act of survival, a desperate grasp for anonymity, an excuse to escape the sharp, judging eyes fixed on a face she once believed was unworthy. Her mother, a woman whose love came wrapped in steel discipline, refused to let weakness survive. She thrust her daughter into the suffocating pressure of Juilliard and the cutthroat spectacle of the Miss Black America pageants. In her mother's eyes, even the slightest softness on Bernadette's teenage body was an unforgivable failure. Food became an enemy. Extreme dieting ruled her youth. Bern Nadette would later struggle to remember the simple pleasure of eating KFC, a forbidden indulgence sacrificed at the altar of a thinner waist. Pain became routine. During catwalk rehearsals, the sting of punishment was constant. One missed step, one broken rhythm, and discipline came swift, cold, and humiliating. It was a brutal dismantling of a shy Brooklyn child, designed to construct a woman of commanding poise and unshakable presence. The transformation was so complete it felt almost unnatural, turning a girl who once hid in shadows into a radiant sun worshipped by millions. Yet that triumph came at a devastating cost. The confidence audiences adored was not born of joy, but hardened scar tissue over deep emotional wounds. The timid child was left behind, starved of warmth and tenderness, replaced by an icon who glittered brilliantly while standing utterly alone. Looking back on that relentless shaping of her identity, Bern Nadette Stanis once confessed with aching honesty, "I had to kill the shy child inside me, forcing her to grow up in pain, expectation, and the salt of my own tears." Lonette McKee, the brutal rehearsal of a biracial beauty forced to redefine herself. In 1995, when People magazine named Lonette McKee one of the 50 most beautiful people in the world, the public bowed to a glow that felt effortless, eternal. But behind that flawless image lay the wreckage of an identity war, one fought in blood and tears, a story Hollywood never wanted told. It began on a freezing Manhattan night in 1976. Inside a cramped casting room choked with cigarette smoke, Lonette stood waiting, not for fame, but for survival. She barely began to speak before a white director sliced her off mid-sentence, flinging her portfolio onto the grimy floor. "You're a glitch in nature," he snapped. "Too white to play black, too black to stand beside the lead. In Hollywood, there's no place for a half-breed. Do you understand?" That night, walking beneath Manhattan's glittering yet merciless lights, Lonette felt the truth settle like ice in her bones. To be seen, she could not wait for acceptance. She would have to erase herself. The girl in the mirror, the misfit, the innocent, would have to die. Only then could she sculpt a version of beauty so exact, so undeniable, that Hollywood would be forced to kneel. Her metamorphosis began in the purgatory of Broadway in 1982. In a decaying studio at 2 a.m., she was chained to punishing drills meant to reshape even her bones. For 6 hours at a time, she stood motionless, iron weights crushing her shoulders, her spine forced into the regal posture of the elite. To forge a diva's voice, she trained in isolation so complete her throat bled. Some nights she screamed until her esophagus burned, her voice collapsing into raw, broken whispers. Every glance, every curl of her lip was measured, judged, corrected. A millimeter off, and she started again, amid insults sharp enough to draw blood. This surgery of the soul produced the masterpiece the world applauded on People's cover, but it executed the young girl she once was. "In a rare confession," Lonette admitted, "there were moments I looked in the mirror and saw only a beautiful corpse. I wondered if the regal woman the world celebrated was truly me, or just a doll stitched together from the remains of a biracial girl I killed with my own hands in the shadows of Broadway." Not every monument of beauty blooms like a rose from gentle soil. For Lonette McKee, it rose as a fortress, built from the ashes of an identity burned alive in the furnace of expectation. Her life stands as a hard, glittering truth. To conquer this town, one sometimes has to become a stranger to oneself. Jean Bell. A ruthless self-reinvention, forged to erase a Houston past amid the fever dreams of 1960s America. When the name Jeannie Bell emerged, it wasn't a debut, it was a defiant challenge. The world would come to know her as the first black woman to rule the cover of the Playboy empire in October 1969, a seismic rupture in the history of beauty. Yet behind that barrier-breaking glamour lived a secret she fought to bury, the memory of a tired provincial girl raised on Houston's poorest streets. Her most brutal wound came at 17, during a local fashion casting. Beneath the blinding lights, a white manager flicked her chin aside with the tip of a pencil, appraising her like livestock. He sneered before the room. "Look at yourself, you ugly duckling. Those rough, working hands and that crooked smile belong in a kitchen, not on a masthead. You don't have a thousandth of the potential to be a model." The humiliation landed like ice water on her dignity. But it did not break her. It lit the fuse. What followed was a radical shedding of skin, A total metamorphosis meant to incinerate every trace of the impoverished girl she had been. She plunged into months of nerve-shattering agony in dental clinics, where her jaw and crooked teeth were forced into alignment, engineered into a flawless, standardized smile. Still unsatisfied, Jeannie turned her vanity into a laboratory of erasure. She learned to weaponize cosmetics, using them like ink to overwrite her past. Hands once hardened by labor were painstakingly softened until they appeared long, slender, aristocratic. Beneath radiant foundation, she buried the lines of the working class, training her body to move and breathe as if born into silk rather than workshop dust. It was a bleaching of memory by makeup, each brushstroke a desperate vow that the world would never again glimpse the ghost of that ugly duckling. Then came October 1969. Jeannie Bell appeared on the cover of Playboy. In that instant, she became more than a model. She was the first black woman to breach the inner sanctum of American sensuality, a magnificent icon shattering racial barricades with sovereign grace. The world gasped at a vision so polished, so regally enchanting, that her beauty reduced even the man who once humiliated her to a haunted, humiliated silence. Gloria Hendry. Gloria Hendry. The savage self-sacrifice demanded to reach the illusion of perfection. When people name the most unforgettable Bond girls in film history, Gloria Hendry is impossible to ignore. A blazing presence who reshaped the meaning of dangerous allure in the blaxploitation era. With luminous skin and a body so sharp and exact it seemed engineered to the millimeter, she was exalted as a dream made flesh, as if nature itself had chosen her as a favorite. Yet almost no one suspected that beneath the worshipped surface lived a wound carefully buried under layers of glamour. Before she became a symbol of pride for women of color, Gloria was publicly torn apart by critics, branded ugly, with a cruelty meant to erase her worth entirely. Those words cut deep, leaving scars that hardened into obsession, an unrelenting drive to destroy and rebuild herself from the ground up. Pain became her tool, discipline her revenge, a brutal vow to silence the world through sheer transformation. On a freezing night in 1972, deep inside a suffocating underground gym in Los Angeles, just months before filming Live and Let Die, Gloria Hendry dragged herself through her final sets beneath the merciless stare of a notorious trainer. At 3 a.m., the room swam in shadow, thick with sweat and the metallic bite of blood from blisters ripped open on her palms. When her body finally gave way under the iron, the trainer nudged her hip with the toe of his boot and hissed a reminder meant to burn. "Never forget, they called you the ugliest thing in Hollywood. Get up." To perfect the fluid, predatory walk of a Playboy bunny, Gloria forced herself into razor-thin stilettos for 12 hours a day, even while lifting weights or running. Her feet ballooned grotesquely, blood leaking from bruised nail beds and staining the insides of the shoes, yet she refused to take them off. Tape crushed her toes into warped shapes. "Every night felt like walking straight into hell," she later admitted. Sleep was impossible as violent spasms ripped through her body, every muscle screaming as if torn from bone with pliers. Sustained on water and a handful of shriveled vegetables, her skin thinned, her strength drained, while unseen wounds leaked quietly inside her. Some nights she lay unmoving on the cold stone floor, breathing shallowly to calm the fever of inflammation, letting the chill sink into her bones just to feel alive. Even at the height of her fame, the woman staring back from the mirror could still make her shudder. The perfection came at a price, and the memory of that skin-rending agony never truly left her. Vonetta McGee. Vonetta McGee. The quiet erasure of identity at the very heart of Hollywood. In the 1970s, Hollywood was ablaze with the rise of blaxploitation, a bold, dangerous era of rebellious black heroes, thick with gun smoke, fast cars, and raw attitude. And from that electric chaos, Vonetta McGee rose like a vision. She was stunning, commanding, almost mythic in her presence. Her beauty stopped rooms. It felt unreal, too perfect to be touched by doubt. But ladies and gentlemen, that beauty did not come untouched by sacrifice. Behind the glow of the silver screen was a silent, merciless journey beneath surgical lights, a shadowed chapter of Hollywood history known as ethnic plastic surgery. In that era, for a black woman to claw her way into A-list, big-budget films, natural beauty was not enough. It had to be filtered, approved, reshaped by white producers and Western standards. Vonetta understood the unspoken rule. To survive, to thrive, she could not simply be beautiful as she was born. She needed a competitive face, one that still whispered Africa, yet was sharpened to fit the Western golden ratio. One April night in 1972, inside a discreet private clinic in Beverly Hills, Vonetta sat beneath harsh fluorescent lights, facing her surgeon. On the table lay a glossy photograph of Elizabeth Taylor. Beside it, a sketch of Vonetta's own face, mapped and scarred with black ink lines. The doctor studied her carefully, his pen gliding over her nose as he spoke without warmth. "You have eyes like Liz," he said. "Magnificent. But this nasal structure, directors will hesitate. If you want to stand beside leading men, it must be sculpted, elegant, proportional." Vonetta said nothing. She stared instead at the large mirror behind him, watching the reflection of a woman about to be dismantled. Her eyes burned with resolve, mixed with grief. She understood the price. To become the Black Elizabeth Taylor in the public imagination, she would have to perform a brutal purge of her own heritage. The blades came soon after. Millimeter by millimeter, nostrils narrowed. Bone was carved. Identity was reshaped in the suffocating silence of the operating room. Recovery was long and isolating, days spent locked away in darkness, her face bound tight in bandages like a mummy, heavy with antiseptic and dried blood. Each time a nurse changed the dressings, revealing angry red stitches along the bridge of her newly constricted nose, Vonetta felt as if another fragment of her ancestor's soul had been stripped away. It was the painful taming of identity, where every erased feature brought her closer to stardom and farther from herself. When the wounds finally healed and Vonetta McGee appeared radiant in Hammer, 1972, all of Hollywood held its breath. They praised her aristocratic beauty. They called her a masterpiece. But no one knew that when she stood alone before a mirror, Vonetta would sometimes lift her hand, unconsciously touching the bridge of her nose, now elegant by Western standards, searching for a trace of the woman she once was. A trace that was gone forever. Paula Kelly. Paula Kelly. A masterpiece carved from pain and defiance. On the gilded stages of Broadway, her name echoed like a vow of power and unparalleled elegance. The world once bowed to her presence, a striking, formidable beauty so potent that Playboy broke its own rules just to honor her. But before she reigned as the queen of the stage, Paula was an ugly duckling, shoved into the shadows. In the mid-1950s, during a brutal ballet audition at a prestigious Manhattan academy, white judges dismissed her as coarse, a body deemed unworthy of high art. That judgment could have ended a young girl's dreams. Instead, it ignited a relentless, almost brutal transformation. Her sister would later recall a frigid winter night in 1958. Drawn by muffled groans, she discovered Paula in a dim rehearsal room deep in their Manhattan basement. Under a flickering jaundiced light, she saw Paula on the cold floor, eyes burning with hatred, drenched in tears. Ropes braided tightly around her calves anchored her to a piano's heavy legs. She pulled with all her might, forcing her body to bend, to straighten, to conform to the impossible standards of classical dance. As her sister rushed forward, Paula's gaze pierced her. Her voice was a rasp of agony. "Don't touch me. I'd rather shatter these legs than live another second in this cursed body." That terrifying ritual remained a secret for decades. Paula never went under a surgeon's knife. Pain was her scalpel, discipline her clandestine art. Hours before the mirror became her theater, the harsh light cutting across high cheekbones and deep-set eyes condemned by Hollywood as too coarse. She didn't hide her features, she transformed them. Makeup became not camouflage, but architecture, a language of power. Backstage at a 1964 Broadway show, a veteran tried to soften her angles with powder. Paula shoved his hand away, seized the brush, and deepened the shadows beneath her cheekbones, turning jagged edges into authority, intensity, legend. Her unyielding vision forged a singular, indomitable force, a black diamond of a woman. So dazzling, so uncompromising, that in October 1969, amid America's racial upheaval, Playboy shattered its own rigid standards, dedicating 8 pages to honor Paula Kelly. If you want, I can also make an even punchier, video narration version that condenses this into a 2 to 3 minute dramatic script with even more emotional pull for listeners. It would hit all the climaxes of pain, defiance, and triumph. Do you want me to do that? Toni Braxton. Toni Braxton, a voice born from pain, rising from bleeding incisions. In 1993, the world was captivated by that husky, intoxicating tone in her self-titled debut. Fans fell for the queen of R&B, mesmerized by a face sculpted to perfection, delicate nose, full lips, the very definition of sensuality. But behind the songs that melted millions of hearts lay a horrifying secret Toni carried alone for years. A brutal transformation, performed while her career teetered on the razor's edge between life and death. The most harrowing moment didn't happen in a hospital room. It happened in a locked Los Angeles studio late one night in 1992. Amid the buzzing of electronics and the suffocating demands of the record label, Toni stood before the microphone, her face still riddled with stitches, flesh not yet healed. A sound technician who witnessed it would never forget her surreptitious ritual. Cotton swabs soaked in blood from her nostrils between takes. And yet, the moment the recording light flashed on, she shed her agony and poured herself into the performance. Toni later confessed that those hours were the most terrifying of her life. Every note, every expression on her face, was a desperate battle against nerve-shredding pain. Yet she forced herself to smile, to exude the seductive charm the world expected. All while blood and surgical fluids hid behind a mask of flawless makeup. Years later, surrounded by Grammy trophies and the aura of legend, Toni Braxton would look back at that 1993 album cover and weep. "I sang until my stitches bled beneath layers of powder, all for a standard of beauty," she reflected. And yet, looking at that perfect image, I realized I had created a masterpiece so flawless. I barely recognized myself. Cheryl Lee Ralph. Cheryl Lee Ralph, trapped in Hollywood's beauty machine and the infamous $10,000 blade. In the 1980s, when she stepped in front of the camera, the world stopped. Honey-toned skin that glowed, lips full and arresting. A presence so commanding it could hush any lens. She was a living collision of wildness and purity. Yet, to the gatekeepers of cinema, her radiant brown skin was a crime, a blemish on the perfect Hollywood frame. The darkest memory comes from one late afternoon in 1983, in a perfume-choked office of a powerful Culver City producer. He leaned back, feet on the desk, and with a red pen, slashed a brutal X across her photograph before tossing it into the trash. Smoke curled into her face as he spat his contempt. "This skin, these lips, they insult our cameras. Hollywood demands features carved like diamonds, not this street-breathed roughness. Change your smile or disappear." That merciless verdict sent Cheryl into a secretive Christmas beauty purge. Not a hospital, but a hidden Laurel Canyon villa, the shadowy clinic of the elite. An attic converted into an operating room, where lavender tried, and failed, to mask the metallic tang of blood and alcohol. Under a lone surgical light, her lips were injected with silicone and strange chemicals, knives reshaping her bone, erasing the natural lines of her face to conform to white ideals. For weeks, she was imprisoned in that villa, wrapped in white gauze, skin screaming with every movement. She could not speak, could not eat, could not even close her eyes without agony ripping through her. Some nights, wind shrieking through the mountains, she pressed her hands to her face to stop convulsions, feeling as if her bones were being smashed and reassembled in the dark. Night after night, I had to grip my face to stop the seizing. It felt like my bones were being smashed and fused back together. I sold my soul to that $10,000 contract. Hollywood demanded a flawless icon, but they never knew that to forge that smile, they nailed her soul beneath a cold, silicone mask that would never come off. Decades later, Cheryl still shudders at the scars hidden beneath the makeup, scars that whisper of a price no camera could ever capture. Diahann Carroll. Diahann Carroll wasn't just a star, she was a revolution. In the history of American television, she broke barriers no one had dared touch. The first black woman to escape the tired trope of the submissive maid, she transformed into the elegant, commanding presence of Julia, a role that made the world take notice. But the poised, aristocratic image that dazzled audiences didn't arrive by chance. Behind the spotlight was a woman haunted by a past she couldn't forget. An orphan raised in the harsh streets of forgotten neighborhoods, Diahann carried her childhood scars like invisible chains. Her natural features were more than beauty, they were constant reminders of poverty, struggle, and a girl who once had to fight to survive. By the 1960s, when society still imposed rigid boundaries on black women, Diahann made a life-altering choice. She would reshape herself, literally, to seize her place in the world. "I looked in the dressing room mirror and only saw that poor orphan girl," she said. "The one with gaunt cheekbones, freezing on a dark street corner. If I didn't destroy that old image myself, the world would keep me kneeling, playing the maid, living in shadows." In a revealing 1968 interview with TV Guide for Julia's premiere, Diahann laid it all bare. Her stunning, commanding beauty wasn't luck. It was a deliberate architecture built from the ashes of insecurity and inferiority. She called plastic surgery a gift from God, because, for her, it was the only way a black woman could shed the chains of her impoverished beginnings and step into the light with the power, dignity, and stature of a queen. Candi Staton. A song rising from the depths. If despair had a face, it would be Candi Staton in the late 1980s. Years of alcohol, drugs, and abusive marriages have turned the queen of Southern soul into a wandering ghost, gaunt, hollow-eyed, almost unrecognizable. Everything changes one winter night in 1982 at a rundown bar in seedy, Alabama. Candi stumbles onto the stage, frail and trembling, dressed in tattered clothes. A local event organizer glares at her, spits on the floor, and laughs in front of the crowd. "Look at this. Your queen? A lifeless corpse rotting from drink. Candi, crawl back to the kitchen and clean. Never disgrace the lights with that face again." The words slice through her already shattered self-respect. Later, in a decrepit motel room reeking of whiskey, Candi stands motionless in front of a foggy mirror. She stares at the trembling stranger staring back. The truth hits her like a punch. If she isn't ruthless enough to shatter this failing shell and claw herself out of the mire, the name Candi Staton will sink forever into the abyss. For months, she disappears. Rumors whisper that she's dead. The reality is far darker. A secluded clinic, a brutal regimen of physical torture. One night, her former manager finds her, frozen in horror. Amid cold medical equipment, he sees Candi writhing from a weight loss routine that leaves her skin and bones. Her face is wrapped in bandages, only her fiery eyes pierce the room. "Candi, is this suicide? You don't have to punish yourself for his words." Candi lifts her head slowly, suppressing the agony, her voice hoarse but steel-sharp. "Suicide? Look at these cuts. If I can't survive the breaking of this shell, I don't deserve the spotlight. I'd rather endure the pain to rise as a legend than live another day as a failure." Then, 1986. Amid the neon blaze of New York's high society nightclubs, Candi Staton steps onto the stage to roaring applause. At 46, she radiates breathtaking elegance, timeless beauty defying decay. She proves an uncompromising truth. Ultimate beauty is not the gift of youth. It's earned by those who walk through fire, shatter self-doubt, and rise from ashes unbroken. In the world of fame, beauty is never free. This is the chilling cost of immortality, the soul's price. If this story behind the curtain moves you, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Don't miss the next secret profile as we reveal the dark, hidden lives of legendary black icons.